Good morning, everybody. Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NBA player prop picks for today. We're talking Saturday, November 23rd. And I got to be honest, I have a pretty heavy card of NBA player props for you guys to lock in today. I'm going to have 6 players total that we are backing, one of which we are taking for a juicy ladder play as well. You know, I woke up and I really liked the board. I felt as though there were a lot of matchups that I wanted to target. So instead of trying to be selective and choosing one over the other, I just decided to lock in all the plays that I liked. Last time I did this, it did not work out well for us, admittedly, but we've been on an absolute roll recently. That continued yesterday. We cashed 4 of our 5 bets that we locked in. One of them was a Giannis ladder that he climbed the full ladder for us. So yesterday we are up about 3.3 units, a little bit over the 3.3 unit mark. We're now on a 10-3 run in the past 3 days. Just an absolutely incredible run that we are on. Unfortunately, I dug ourselves a pretty big hole to climb out of because of how rough the beginning of the year was. So we're still down on the year. We're down a little bit under 5 units on the season. But like I said, we're on an absolute hot streak. So I'm feeling pretty good about how things are going. Finally, some of these plays are starting to go our way. Hopefully that continues tonight with the heavy card that I decided to play today. Reminder to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's get right into these picks for today. So play number 1 is actually going to be our ladder play as well. We're heading to the Nuggets versus Lakers game. Anthony Davis points ladder. We're taking him over 26.5 points, minus 120 odds at DraftKings. I'm putting a full unit on that bad boy, and I'm taking him 30 plus points as well, plus 145 odds, also at DraftKings for a half unit. Now, depending on when you're watching this, if that 26.5 number is no longer available, then I would just go ahead and take the 30 plus for a full unit McSlam as opposed to taking over 27.5 or over 28.5 or anything like that. Honestly, DraftKings was so far off the market when I locked this in this morning that there was so much value on them at the over 26.5 number that I wanted to take advantage of that. But depending on when you're watching this, obviously I know lines change and stuff. So if you can't get that 26.5 number, just put the full unit McSlam on the 30 plus. With that out of the way, Anthony Davis has been absolutely cooking this year. He's been very good, and he's got a great matchup against a Denver defense that has gotten smoked by the big man this season. Now, their defense, the Nuggets in general, taken a major step back from what we're used to seeing over the past 2 years. Now, I don't pretend to watch a ton of Nuggets basketball, but I know they've lost a lot on the perimeter of their defense with Bruce Brown and KCP leaving in the last 2 years. So the guess is we're kind of seeing like a Utah Jazz from the past situation where the perimeter defense is so bad that it's really hurting them the most on the interior for the Nuggets specifically, meaning they're not able to hide Jokic nearly as well as they had been able to previously. And what is nice about backing Anthony Davis is he scores in a bunch of different ways for the Lakers. So like even if you look at the Nuggets and they're good at defending one play type, like Anthony Davis scores a lot at the free throw line. The Nuggets don't foul at a high rate. That's fine. The Lakers could just run different action for Anthony Davis and not rely on him getting to the line. And like if you go to Props Madness and you just look at his play type, there's like 7 different categories in which Anthony Davis scores a decent amount of his points. So that kind of leads to him having an awesome season. You know, he's gone over the 26.5 full main line number in 10 of 14 games. And he's actually hit 30 points in 9 of 14 games as well. So only once has he scored between 27 and 29 points. So more often than not, if he's going over 26.5, he's also scoring 30 plus. He's also coming off of a 39-point game last time out. Now, generally, that would make me a little bit nervous, but we've seen 2 separate times in this kind of short beginning of the season in which Anthony Davis has scored 30 plus points in 3 straight games. The Lakers also lost that game, and AD missed 2 free throws at the very end. So maybe he comes out with a little bit of vengeance after that. Also, maybe he comes out with a little bit of vengeance taking on the Nuggets, who's bounced the Lakers from the playoffs in the past 2 seasons. If that leads to 3 extra points for AD, we'll take it. The reason why we're on it is because of how good AD's been, and it's because of the matchup, right? The biggest advantage that Anthony Davis will have against the Nuggets is his ability to score in the paint in general, in the restricted area, and then in the non-restricted area of the paint. So Anthony Davis scores 58% of his points in the restricted area, and then 22% of his points in the non-restricted area of the paint. So it's like basically the cylinder, right? The circle of the restricted area, and then the paint outside of that. 80% of Anthony Davis's buckets. You look at the Denver Nuggets defense, they're the 5th worst defense in the NBA, both guarding the restricted area and guarding the non-restricted area of the paint as well. And overall, the Nuggets, they've allowed the third most made buckets within 5 feet from the basket. Anthony Davis has made the second most buckets per game in that area of the floor, within 5 feet from the basket. Anthony Davis goes off tonight. I absolutely love this play. That's play number 1 and our only ladder play. Next up, LaMelo Ball, 30-plus points, plus 100 odds at FanDuel. Just a smash play, smash matchup. So many reasons to love this play for LaMelo Ball. Now, he did just miss this last time he played the Bucks, but he scored like 25 points in the second half of that game. He just had an incredibly slow start that he didn't get to 30-plus. But LaMelo Ball's shot profile is like quite literally the perfect matchup you could come up with against this Bucks defense. Like if you were just like drawing on it, like just in imagination land, what's the best player to go up against this Bucks defense? It would literally be LaMelo Ball's shot profile. It's all because of the type of defense that the Bucks play. I talk about it all year. They drop the big man when guarding the pick and roll. That leads, and they'll just accept players walking into shots. I should say they will accept the pick and roll ball handler just walking in the shots. On the season, the Bucks have given up the third most above the break 3-point attempts and the fourth most pull-up 3-point attempts against them. That's obviously correlated, right? A lot of above the break numbers come from pull-ups, and it's all because of this style of defense. Now you look at LaMelo Ball, it's not absolute death sentence, right? He's attempted the most above the break 3-pointers and the most pull-up 3-pointers as well. So the play type and everything matches up perfectly with LaMelo Ball. And another reason to love this play, Miles Bridges is out. And LaMelo shoots the ball. I mean, he shoots the ball at an absurd rate regardless, but he also shoots the ball at an even more absurd rate when Miles Bridges is out of the lineup. He's played 4 games without Miles Bridges this season. He scored 30-plus points in all 4. He actually scored 35 in 3 of those 4, so I do think that there is some ladder potential here. I might end up doing that. I haven't decided yet. But again, I do think that there is some ladder potential there. And his usage rate in those 4 games, 42.4%. That would lead the NBA by a mile. That would be that would lead the last 10 years of NBA basketball. That insane usage rate, over 40%, is wild. He goes off tonight very, very confident in LaMelo Ball. Next up, play 3, Knicks versus Jazz game. Jaylen Brunson over 7.5 assists, plus 108 odds at Caesars. Classic system play here. Take your point guard assist prop overs against the Utah Jazz. Now, the Jazz are not quite the Bulls level bad for point guard assist props, and I promise you we will get into the Bulls in just a little bit, but they're very, very close. The Bulls allow the most assists per game to point guards. Guess what? The Jazz are right behind them, allowing the second most assists per game to point guards. We've targeted the Jazz defense all year, and that's even going back to last year as well under the same coaching staff. And when you dig into the matchup, makes complete sense why the Jazz are such a good matchup for point guard assist props. They allow the most points per possession to the pick and roll man. That's an assisted play. If the roll man is scoring, whoever's running the pick and roll is getting an assist. And again, that's the most points per possession. The Bulls allow the most points per game to the pick and roll man, which we'll get into. The Jazz, the most points per possession. And then even further than that, the Jazz allow the 7th most points per game via dribble handoffs, the 2nd most points per game off screens, and the 6th most catch and shoot 3-point attempts allowed as well. Now, a lot of those numbers are kind of correlated, especially with the catch and shoot. It just shows that whoever's driving the ball, whoever has the ball in their hands against the Jazz, is able to rack up a ton of assists because all those play types are assisted, right? If the roll man is scoring, someone has to pass in the ball, rolling to the basket, and scoring. Via dribble handoffs, whoever's passing the ball to the guy running the handoff generally is an assisted play. Same thing off of screen. If someone's running off a screen and catching and shooting, that's an assist. And Brunson, after a slow start, has been on a roll from an assist perspective. And sometimes I like to fade recent results. Not this time. Brunson, he missed this in the first 3 games of the year. He missed it in 5 of the first 7. Since then, he's gone over in 6 of 8, and he's actually gone over in 3 straight games as well. And such a good matchup for Brunson. I'm cool with riding the heater on him to go over once again tonight. That's play number, Play number 4. Play number 3. Play number 3. Plays number 4 and 5, I'm actually going to combine into just one explanation here just to save time because they're both in the same game and they're very correlated. So it's in the Grizzlies versus Bulls game. I promised you we would get to the Bulls. And we're taking Brandon Clark, 10-plus points for plus 115 odds at FanDuel. Full unit McSlam on that one. And then we're taking Scotty Pippen Jr. over 6.5 assists for a half unit, plus 120 odds also at FanDuel. So putting a unit and a half each, or unit and a half total, back in Clark and Pippen. Now for Pippen, the reason why I'm only playing him for a half unit, Ja Morant has been out for a while. He's currently upgraded to doubtful for this game. So if he ends up being a surprise active, I wouldn't want to be caught with my pants down on Scotty Pippen Jr. assists. Now, he could still hit this with Ja in the lineup. It's not like Ja's going to play a ton of minutes. It's just a little bit riskier. And then also Pippen's taken a little bit of a step back recently from an assist department. So wanted to play the Pippen one specifically a little bit light. But regardless, let's talk about the Bulls. Last night, part of the reason why we had such a good night is because we targeted the Bulls in this exact same way. You take the big man who runs pick and rolls, you take his point prop against the Bulls, and then you take the point guard who's running all those pick and rolls, you take his assist prop against the Bulls. Worked out last night with Clint Capella and Trae Young. We went 2-0 doing that. Now, Scotty Pippen Jr. and Brandon Clark are not going to confuse anybody with Clint Capella and Trae Young, but it's the same exact process, the point guard and the big man. And the Bulls, I mentioned this yesterday, so if you watch that, this is not going to be news, or new news, I should say, but the Bulls are the perfect defense to target for props in general. They have the second worst defensive net rating in the NBA, while also playing at the second fastest pace in the NBA. The Grizzlies also play fast, fourth fastest pace in the NBA. So you combine all that together, you get a track meet and a terrible defense in the Bulls. And as mentioned earlier, the Bulls allow the most assists per game to point guards. Last night, Trae Young had an over-under of 11.5. He had 13 assists against the Bulls. And they're weak in the same ways as the Jazz defense, but they're just worse across the board in every category. Like the Bulls, again, most assists allowed to point guards. Best matchup for point guard assist props as well per props.cash. That's why this is a play on Scotty Pippen Jr. The last time these two teams played earlier this year, Scotty Pippen Jr. had 10 assists without Ja Morant. He could easily do that again tonight. We just need him to get to 7. And then as for Brandon Clark, he's the starting center with Zach Edey out injured. Now, Clark's only going to play about 20 minutes, so we're not expecting him to play 35, 40 plus minutes, of course. He also only needs to score 10 points. So as the minutes get lowered, the amount of points he needs to score gets lowered as well. And it's all because of the matchup against the Bulls. Brandon Clark scores about 95% of his points, either from transition, from cuts, or as the pick and roll man. And the Bulls are bad in 2 of those 3 categories. And unfortunately, we don't have data on how defenses guard cuts, so I can't tell you if they're good or not. I would guess that they're bad, knowing everything we know about the Bulls. But what I can tell you is that the Bulls allow the 8th most points per game via transition, and literally the most points per game to the pick and roll man. Now, the roll man was Clint Capella. While we targeted him last night, he went easily over his point prop. And the Bulls have the worst defense in the NBA, specifically guarding the restricted area. That's where Brandon Clark scores over half his points, in the restricted area. And he's only played in 2 games this year without Zach Edey, but in those 2 games, he attempted 7 and 8 field goals. Now, for this one, he just needs 5 dunks, and we're going to catch this out. He could easily do that against this horrific Bulls defense. So if you're telling me he's going to get 7 or 8 field goal attempts, or can't do both, 7 or 8 field goal attempts, I'll gladly take for him to just make 5 of those as dunks and cash this out for us. I love this play. So the Clark, the Scotty Pippen Jr., let's target the Bulls once again and hope it works out. And now for our final pick, our 6th and final pick of the video, 7, including if you ended up taking the Anthony Davis ladder. We're in the Pistons versus Magic game. Sorry, something in my eye. And we're taking Jaden Ivy, 20 plus points, plus 125 odds at bet 365. Now, last play of the evening is targeting a decent defense in the Magic. You know, I'm not going to say that the Magic is a defense that, definitely not the Bulls is what I'm trying to say. But Jaden Ivy should see significantly more usage with Cade Cunningham confirmed out for tonight. And the way you beat the Magic is with ball handlers who can pull up, who can drive to defense, kind of slash to the into the paint, stuff like that. So it's honestly not a terrible matchup for Jaden Ivy. And Ivy, looking at him, he scored 20 points in 6 of 16 games this season. So we kind of are fading results in this one. And it's all because of Cade Cunningham being out. If Cade was playing, we would not be on this play. But if you look at the on-off splits with Cade Cunningham off the floor, Jaden Ivey's usage rate increases by 9.6%. He's got the highest usage rate increase on the Pistons, and his usage rate goes up to 33%. To put that into context for you, a 33% usage rate would tie him with Luka Doncic with the 5th highest usage rate on the season. So you're telling me he's going to get the same usage as Luka? Not that he's as good as Luka, of course, but 20 points seems a lot more doable. And he averages about 25 points per 36 minutes without Cade Cunningham as well, scoring 6.6 more points per 36 as well. So just everything is up when Cade Cunningham is out. And we should expect the ball to be in his hands a ton this game with no Cade Cunningham, either running a lot of pick and roll, a lot of ISO, pulling up from the above the break 3-point range, anything like that. And that's where you target this Magic defense. They're very stout in the interior. They don't allow a ton to big men, but they can be had to ball handlers, as I mentioned. They give up the 10th most points per game via isolation and the 10th most points per game to the pick and roll ball handler, 10th most in each. Now, 10th most doesn't sound like the juiciest matchup in the world, but definitely not a matchup to be scared of. And Jaden Ivy takes the second most pull-up 3-point attempts on the Pistons, but only Cade Cunningham is above him. So with Cade off the floor, Jaden Ivy takes the most pull-up 3-point attempts on the Pistons. And the Magic allow the 7th highest frequency of shots against them come from the pull-up 3-pointer. 20 points is not that crazy for someone that's going to shoot at the same rate in terms of usage rate as Luka. Someone's going to have the ball in his hands a ton against the bottom third defense in the ways in which Jaden Ivy scores. So I love this play. Definitely a really good one. And that's all we got. Massive card for today. Let's just cash all 7. Why not? Let's just go 7-0. Get ourselves to the green on the season would be amazing. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.